Greetings, salutations. What's going on? What's up? Whatever you want to say. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. It's the incredibly creatively and appropriately named Query and Schultz program here on ISC Sports Network. On this installment of the show, this is what, Derek, 22?
This is, 22.
So for show 22, what we're going to do is talk for an hour about how, once again, I was right. Correct?
We're not going to – that's not what we're going to talk about. You happen to be right about your Super Bowl pick. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. We are not going to spend an hour 15, hour 20 on how Jake
I was also right about this. I sent a tweet 6 hours before the game began that said the team that is given the choice will call heads, it will be heads, and the team that wins the coin toss will defer. Heads, and deferred.
I would have lost my hat last night.
Oh, speaking of hats –
I saw, yeah.
I have this one right here to signify, and I'm not necessarily a Buccaneers fan, but this is one of the all-time great logos in all of sports and color schemes. Mm-hmm. Although it's not a color scheme nor a logo that is associated with, like, total tough guy winning. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Super Bowl champions, and since I predicted them and because I have the Bucco Bruce hat because it's sweet, I figured I would bring that again today. But we're going to talk about a lot on the course of this show, Derek, from everything from the Bucs to Tom Brady to what the Colts can do to become a facsimile thereof. And as you know, in a copycat league, everybody's going to try to do that. We have Hall of Fame to talk about. We have college basketball, Pacers, loaded show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a ton to get to, not just obviously in the wake of the American sports' biggest night in the Super Bowl on Sunday night, but a lot of relevant, I think, basketball happenings over the weekend, both college and pro, that I want to tackle as well.
And speaking of colleges, by the way, want to thank, as always, WGU Indiana, because WGU Indiana, a sponsor here of this program. Keep in mind that ambition never rests, and when it comes to WGU, you can work on your own schedule. You can complete that college degree that you've been thinking about, or perhaps starting out going into a new venture and you say, you know what, I've never taken a college class. Well, WGU Indiana is the place to do it. Derek, your wife is a perfect example, right?
Yeah, she did that, overnight nurse, so her schedule is a little wonky, so needed to have that time to dedicate to school that wasn't necessarily right smack dab in the middle of the day, so perfect for her schedule.
Indiana.wgu.edu for Indiana's largest accredited online university. All right, let's begin with the Super Bowl, Derek. And look, this was a great performance defensively by Tampa Bay. I realize that Tom Brady is going to be the headlines, understandably so, because it's ridiculous, right?
It's
7
insane.
Super Bowls, everything that he's done. But defensively, two things to me jumped out. Number one, just how good that defense was. But number two, the importance of having a healthy offensive line. Patrick Mahomes found that out.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to get too knee-jerk and be prisoner of the moment, but I really felt like, Jake, not only was it a great defensive performance, I thought it was an all-time defensive performance. The fact that they held Kansas City out of the end zone and held them to single digits is insane. It's insane that the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, I don't care who's playing offensive line. I don't care if it's you, me, Jake, Jordan, and Wes. The Kansas City Chiefs did not score a touchdown in a 60-minute football game. It's incredible. It was an unbelievable performance. It actually reminded me, ironically, of the 2002 game where, of course, the Buccaneers won their other Super Bowl championship, right, and they just ragdolled Oakland and Rich Gannon, who was the MVP of the league that year. And remember Tim Brown. I mean, they had a lot of firepower on that Raiders team, and they absolutely destroyed them. But I kept waiting for the rally to come from Kansas City. Like, even at halftime, I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, Tyreek Hill's going to go off here. Travis Kelce's going to go off here. And it just never came. They dominated from start to finish.
Derek, to me, as a Clemson fan, I'm watching that game, and I thought, this is what you have these every once in a while, where Trevor Lawrence was the best college football player this past year. I mean, I know that he didn't have necessarily the best season or the Heisman winning season. Let me rephrase that. He was the best quarterback in college football. And the Ohio State game for Clemson, you're watching it as a Clemson fan. I was watching it like, man, you could just tell, midway through the first quarter, like they're not going to get it going here. Defensively, everything is bottled up and sealed off, and they just can't get in rhythm. And that's exactly what I was thinking to myself, Chiefs fans must have felt watching the Super Bowl was after a quarter or so, you realize, I don't know that this is ever going to get humming here. And look, everything that Kansas City tried to do, you got to give Tampa credit because defensively, they were able to rush Mahomes. They were able to completely take away the long ball game, right? I mean, Mahomes, the typical Mahomes movement of extending a play and then finding somebody 40 yards downfield. There were a ton of coverage sacks where there was nowhere for him to go with the ball. Kelsey had some key drops that didn't help, but when you have Eric Fisher that's not in the game and your guards, all of a sudden are collapsing. Look, it just goes to show protecting the quarterback is the number one thing in the National Football League you have to do, along with rushing the quarterback. Well, it's easy to rush the quarterback when the starting offensive line is decimated, and that's what you saw. It's a very simple blueprint to win, Derek, in the NFL. Get to the quarterback and protect yours.
Yeah, 100%. And it shows, again, that this is a team game and it takes more than just one player. And Mahomes is electric, even running for his life. Even when Mahomes is parallel with the ground, he still has pinpoint accuracy. That throw that he had to the end zone, I mean, he hit guys in the face all night, so I don't remember which one it bounced off their eyeball. Maybe it was Hill, maybe it was Kelsey, I don't remember. They dropped 100 passes. For somebody like that to make that throw, there's one person on the planet that can make that throw, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And so to see him so overwhelmed and panicked the way that he was, I mean, I'm just floored, Jake. I mean, maybe I thought that Kansas City, maybe my opinion of them was too high, but they were 16-1 in games that they tried this year. They had never lost by double digits in any game that Patrick Mahomes had started for them. I mean, this was an historic defensive performance. Now, while we're giving the Buccaneers credit, let's admit that the Chiefs played terribly. They were sloppy.
They were very sloppy.
I'm not going to really get into the refs thing. Way too touchy in the first half with some of those flags. I thought that the DPI in the end zone that allowed the last Tampa Bay, defensive pass interference in the end zone that allowed Tampa Bay the last touchdown was a total joke. A, the ball was uncatchable, and B, it wasn't pass interference. You have to actually interfere, with the receiver. Contact is not interference. So yeah, I mean, I had a problem with a couple of those calls, but ultimately it didn't matter. I mean, Tampa Bay just completely and totally dominated that game for 4 quarters.
I'll tell you something fascinating. Sports is like this, Derek. Sports is cyclical. Sports goes in patterns. Tom Brady's 10 Super Bowl appearances and 7 total Super Bowls are now bookended by 2 performances where he was the plucky, feel-good underdog, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, it's weird.
And so,
wait, quick question. Are those the only 2 Super Bowls where he's been the underdog? The first one and this most recent one?
That's a good question.
When else? They were favored in both games against the Giants. I'm assuming they were favored against the Seahawks and the Falcons. Maybe they weren't favored against Atlanta. I don't know.
Yeah, against Atlanta, I'm not positive.
They were favored against the Panthers and Eagles, right?
The Eagles.
Let's go back and I'll try to see if I can't look that up. Sorry,
you do this all the time.
It just popped into my head
because
you brought it up.
But either way, I remember saying a couple of weeks ago on this program that Patrick Mahomes reminded me of Steph Curry in the fact that everything he was doing just was falling into place and it was unbelievable. And Mahomes, when he hit the scene, everybody loved. Who doesn't love Patrick Mahomes? He's an exciting player. His mom's tweeting out things about how the officials are, she's screwing them over, and and then you have the Chiefs as an organization have had a lot of character issues, and that included Andy Reid's son being involved in what appears to be a DUI that left a beautiful little girl fighting for her life at the age of 5 just before the Super Bowl, and he's had past indiscretions and keeps moving his way up the ladder within the Chiefs organization. And then here comes this team so my point being, every dynasty has a fatigue factor. The Chiefs aren't a dynasty. They've won the AFC for 2 years in a row. But is the fatigue already setting in with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think it would have set in more had they won 31-9 last night instead of lost 31-9. But Yeah, I think that we have a certain expiration date on the freshness of something exciting and new. And for the Patriots, it expired very quickly after their first Super Bowl in 2001. And for the Chiefs, it'll expire just like it expired for the Warriors. And, I remember in a way, certainly the Red Sox were in '04, kind of a cute story, and then people kind of got tired of them. I thought the '96 Yankees were kind of it's still the Yankees and Duke basketball and all that, but that was kind of a fun bunch, and then people immediately were like, oh my God, it's the Yankees, screw them. I do think that this is going to expire here very, very soon. I'm actually really interested, Jake, to see how the Chiefs respond to this because there have been a lot of teams. You covered one of them.
Could this have been, yeah.
There have been teams where we thought, oh, the window's wide open, and this is going to be 3-4 championships like the Rams at the turn of the century. And remember, the window, the door shut quickly. Now, the Chiefs still have oodles of talent, and Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback in the league, I think, for the next 7 or 8 years at the very least. So that's still a big window. I don't want to completely write them off, but this was a crushing loss for them to get punched in the mouth like this.
In addition to that, with the Chiefs, I was thinking about this, and I don't know, I'm not a capologist in the history of the Kansas City Chiefs, and I know that Patrick Mahomes is signed. They've gotten that taken care of. But what's their cap flexibility going to be for guys like Kelsey and Hill and, the complementary pieces that you have, keeping the core?
I don't know. I saw a tweet last night about their cap situation not being great next year, but I'd have to actually look at it to see where they are. But, when you have Mahomes, you're going to have a chance regardless of who's around him, and that's not to take away from Hill and Kelsey. I mean, those are great players, but I think you're still going to have a chance with a peak Patrick Mahomes.
But you got to think about this, Derek. This is unbelievable when you really think about it. Mahomes became the first quarterback to start 2 Super Bowls before the age of 26, right? I think he's 25 years old. And yet, if he were to – so what's the shelf life of an NFL quarterback?
Well, we're expanding that now.
Right, but what would you say it is?
I think most
if you
guys –
could get blank, you'd be happy.
Most guys get everything in between before the age of 36 or 37. That's when historically we've seen a little bit of a drop-off.
So we'll say 37. That means that for Patrick Mahomes, who people you look at and you say, this is the next dynasty. If that's the case, Patrick Mahomes will have to go to the Super Bowl every other year between now and age 37 and win all of them to tie Tom Brady.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, it's just 7 Super Bowls, and he has, Jake, Tom Brady single-handedly has won more Super Bowls than every NFL franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, think of good NFL franchises like the 49ers, right? It's a great franchise. How many have they won? They've won 4,
Steelers.
Right? Yeah, the Steelers. The Giants. Giants have won 3. I mean, he's more than double the New York Giants.
The Niners have won 5, haven't they?
Oh, is it 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 for Montana, 1 for Young, right?
Oh, that's right, actually. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Kind of forget about that Steve Young year.
Well, 94 was an unbelievable team and performance. They absolutely ragdolled the Chargers in that game.
You're saying ragdolled too much. You know what I mean? You
No,
came up with
I
it and you're
disagree.
proud of it.
I disagree.
But nobody said
Well, just like Tutties, and now everybody says Tutties.
No.
So
to be
or
truthful,
Tuds.
you're kind of ragdolling ragdoll.
That's
Throwing it around a little too much.
Not proper usage of the word.
I think it is.
I'll send you an email after the show with some of my words and the definitions. So
What
you
other
can learn them?
What other words do you have? Let me
You can learn them a
let
little
me
bit
get this
better.
right. You got tutties. That took off like a Led Zeppelin. You got ragdolled. What else have you come up with?
God, there's just so many that I can't even name. Well, of Jimmy's.
Yeah, nobody says that.
A lot of people say Jimmy's.
Midtown. That's another one
Ice
of your
cream
big
topics. I don't know why people still bust my chops about Midtown. That's actually a proven fact that's what the center of Indianapolis is called.
Here's my issue with Midtown, Derek. It's very simple. Of the two of us, the combined years living in Indianapolis between the two of us is how long have you lived in Indy?
It'll be 15 years this fall.
Okay, so basically 60 years between us. Okay? You got 15 of them. Midtown would imply the middle of the city, right?
The middle of town, yes. Midtown.
The middle of town, yes. The middle of town for Indianapolis, actually, many people may not realize this. The east-west divider is Meridian Street, and the north-south divider is Washington Street. So technically speaking, Midtown, the middle of the city, is the intersection of Washington and Meridian, which is 1 block south, of course, of Monument Circle. Now, if you wanted to say to yourself, well, no, that's downtown, and it's okay, fine. But we have fine listeners of this program and viewers of this program, Derek, that live in Greenwood, right?
Yeah.
Beach Grove.
Yep.
Franklin Township.
Yeah.
Decatur Township. Those are the south side, right?
Well, yeah, but only Franklin Township and Decatur Township are technically Indianapolis.
But let me ask you this. So when you say Midtown, you're talking, what is the north-south divider of Midtown?
34th Street.
Okay, and then
to the end of the red line, 66.
And then how far? 34th to 66th.
Yep. Okay,
so that's the middle of the area between Monument Circle or Washington or Meridian, because 34th, you go north, like 100, 200, 300, 3,400 north. So what you're talking about is the middle of the north side. It doesn't include, if you take the southern Perry Township, Southport, you take that area, Midtown, the middle of Indianapolis, between that area and the north side of Indianapolis is downtown. That's Midtown.
Yeah, but
so it's the middle of the north side, so you're completely cutting off and chopping down half of the city of Indianapolis.
I mean, obviously, scholars have debated this for years. What are the actual geographical boundaries of Midtown? But I don't come up with this, okay? I came to Indianapolis in 2006. I was born in 1983. I'm not that old. I'm still in the prime of my life.
I think those are two key factors in this debate.
These are predetermined. Midtown existed far before I did. Like, you're acting like I'm the one that drafted this. There are a lot of things that don't necessarily make all the way sense, but they're called what they're called. You know what I mean? A Michigan left is stupid, right? But people still do it. Mm-hmm. Well, why do they call it a Michigan left? We're in Indiana.
Were you more relieved over the fact, or which was a bigger emotion for you? The fact that the disappointment that Antonio Brown got a Super Bowl ring, or the elation that Le'Veon Bell was denied one?
Yeah. You know what? All kidding aside, I had no idea that Antoine Randall had returned as an NFL coach. He's an offensive assistant. I knew about, obviously, Tom Moore, Clyde Christensen, Bruce Arians, all with heavy Colts ties, so good for them. But Antoine Randall also got himself a second Super Bowl ring last night. Yeah, I found out this morning that was the case. So there were some guys to root for. I love Gronk. People might hate Gronk because of the association with the Patriots. Gronk, to me, is just a dude that's kind of a big dumb animal and happens to be an elite football Hall of Fame player. I've always liked him. I like how he plays. I like the joy that he shows on the field.
Rob Gronkowski is a phenomenal talent. And the thing about Gronkowski, Derek, I think he knows the role he plays. And he kind of plays a character, does he not?
A little bit. But I think that's who he is. I don't think it's fake.
But if you listen to him interviewed, I think Gronk knows that the stereotype and his brand is big dumb jock. Mm-hmm. And he plays that perfectly on the field. But if you hear him interviewed, it's not really – he doesn't talk the way you would imagine that he talks.
Rob Gronkowski
I like him as well.
Has never spent a dime of his contract money. Every dollar that he has spent in his career has been from endorsements. He's got a big one in New England with Dunkin' Donuts, which are everywhere. You can't throw a rock and not hit 5 of them. So obviously he does a lot of smart guy things for being a big dumb jock, right?
Right.
But I just think it didn't need validation. There was talk after he left in 2018, okay, is his career window too short for him to be a Hall of Famer? And I think him coming back and doing this and continuing to play it at a high level after sitting out a year just kind of further cements the fact that absolutely he belongs in Canton.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt, because to me, Hall of Fame. I thought he was
a no-doubter before, but
the Hall of Fame to me, Derek, is to be in the Hall of Fame. That means that you were undoubtedly the best at your position for the majority of your career. He's been the best tight end when he's playing, right? And even this year, he didn't start out that way.
Sure. I think the way that I would amend that, Jake, if you only play 8 or 9 years like Calvin Johnson or Rob Gronkowski, you need to be the best player at your position for several of those years. I think there are guys like Phillip Rivers, who I believe strongly is a Hall of Famer, who was never the best player at his position, but was very good or Frank Gore. Frank Gore was never even close. I don't know if Frank Gore was even a top 5 running back at any point in his career.
Right.
But he's been good very good for a long time.
Longevity absolutely is a tiebreaker for a lot of guys. No doubt about that. Speaking of which, the Hall of Fame, one of the things that we're going to get to coming up on this program, right? Because now that we know that Tom Brady has won 7 Super Bowls, question is,
you could stop saying it. Everybody knows.
What's that?
You stopped it. We know that Tom Brady's won 7 Super Bowls.
That's what I just said.
Well,
now that we know that he's won 7 Super Bowls.
Let's make an agreement that we're just not going to say 7 Super Bowls and Tom Brady again on the show today.
Why?
I've kind of reached my limit of how many times that's going to be
I was
said.
just simply pointing out that we have addressed that.
No, I get it. I just don't want it to be said again.
Look at the photo right here.
I don't want to look at the photo.
He's got gray in the temples like me. It's a sign of greatness.
We see that photo every freaking year.
That's true.
I'm not interested in seeing the photo.
The color of the confetti, the only thing that changed, right? But either way, the question now becomes, if the Colts want to get there and try to themselves hoist the Lombardi, in the words of Jim Irsay, who might be the quarterback the next time the Colts do it? That's what we'll discuss next here on Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching, barn needs cleaning, tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Welcome back. It's Corey and Schultz, post-Super Bowl edition, episode 22 of the program, alongside Jay Corey. I'm Corey Schultz.
Good, doesn't it?
Let me reach for a hot bag here. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends at Wood Warbler Coffee. I've got the Hot Cup O' Schultzy in my right hand, in my left paw. Oh, I also have, this was actually the test Hot Cup of Schultzy. This is before we printed the labels with my cartoon face on it.
Okay.
So Jeff Canada and the rest of the crew over at Wood Warbler Coffee in Noblesville have done an amazing job.
His name's Jeff Canada, but he's local.
With this,
right? He's an American. He's local.
Right. With this coffee blend, you can buy Hot Cup of Schultze at woodwarblercoffee.com or any of their blends, including, I think, what do you have? The Indy 11 blend and the Birdsong blend?
That is correct.
Those are all delicious.
Wood Warbler.
All local.
Warbler. Wood Warbler Coffee. Okay, you got to go to the website, Derek, right?
And specifically for Hot Cup of Schultze for February, thanks to all of your contributions, we were able to send a nice check over to our friends at Wheeler Mission for December and January. But for February, it's going to be the Humane Society of Indianapolis.
All right.
So looking
forward
to
out our four-legged friends,
That's right, which I know you're passionate about. And I have a rescue pup at home, Ollivander Longpaw Schultz, who just celebrated a birthday.
Oh, really? How old is he?
He is 8.
Good dog info there, Derek.
Well, sorry,
we had
two birthdays. We had 2 birthdays because Oliver's rescue date was Super Bowl Sunday, Peyton Manning's last championship, and it was exactly a year to the date that my son James was born.
You know, our
boys,
friend of the program, Kansas City Steve, always points out and celebrates when he has his gotcha date celebration for his dog Milton.
Yeah, that's great. Milton's a great dog.
Milton's
I've met
a great
Milton
dog.
several times.
Milton wears his little Kansas City Chiefs collar because Steve's a big Chiefs fan. We hope that Milton today is doing okay. I think Milton got over the loss quicker than did Steve.
Yeah.
But again, Jeff Canada, passionate about the fact that it is a bird-friendly coffee. We're talking about Wood Warbler. That's woodwarblercoffee.com, based right in Noblesville. You can buy on site. If you go to their website, you can also buy there for the Hot Cup of Schultze.
And local pickup.
Or any of the fabulous coffees.
So skip the shipping fees. Go up to Noblesville and pick it up from Jeff himself.
Sounds good.
And I'll autograph any hot bag or a hot sack if you want me to. No personalized greetings.
Nobody would want either.
Well, I just don't. I don't like to do the to Derek thing, or to Jake, to
Why?
John.
Was it going to devalue your autograph?
Well, I sign a lot, so I don't want the wrist to wear out.
Okay. Well, yeah. Again, you mean? Okay.
We shouldn't go down that road, I guess.
Okay, so the Colts quarterbacking situation, Matthew Stafford's off the table now. That much we know. Carson Wentz, and who knows, when you folks are watching this, maybe by then this will settle itself out because the Colts appear to be in play in the Carson Wentz discussion. Sam Darnold is also there. And then you have the draft. You have Jacob Eason. There are a million things in play, Derek. In your opinion, things stand where with the quarterback search for the Colts?
I'm just guessing because we all are just guessing right now, right? For the most part, I know that, there's some talks of, sources, and I talked to this person, and this person told me this. Gut feeling with where we sit today, Jake, I think the Colts, I don't think they're going to be aggressive enough in the trade market to get Wentz or Darnold or any of these other guys because of the asking price for some of these players.
Well, but not to cut you off there, but is Philadelphia really going to get the asking price for Carson Wentz? If they really want,
but somebody's going to pay something for him, and it looks like it might be the Bears, who are the front runners for that right now. Ditto for Darnold. In fact, Darnold, the Jets said could go for a first-round pick, apparently, according to reports, and so I think somebody would give that up. Apparently 6 or 7 teams have asked about Darnold already. But, gun to my head, what I think the Colts will do is I think they're going to end up with, and this is a name that you've mentioned a lot, but somebody in the Nick Foles, Ryan Fitzpatrick mold, right, and just kind of run it back one more year and roll with Eason as the QB2, or maybe even bring back Brissett as a QB2. Even though I don't think that's what Brissett wants.
You know what's interesting,
I think
Derek?
Brissett wants to go somewhere where he can start.
What is interesting to me is that Jacoby Brissett is in play. He's a free agent, right? But yet you don't hear about anybody else coming and knocking down the door of Jacoby Brissett.
No, I think it's
like a slam dunk that he's going to be on the roster if they want him.
I think it's
what does that tell you?
Twofold strategic thing. One is you like Brissett, so you want him to have other opportunities. You don't want to talk him down and be like, Brissett has no chance to be our starter. And two, for trade talks, if I'm Ballard and I'm talking to the Eagles are like, look, we want 2 ones. I'm saying to them, you know what, guys, we're thinking about bringing back Brissett, so we're interested, but we're not close to that interested, right? So you kind of use it, I guess, as leverage. It's all kind of a game that you play here. But to me, Jake, and I've remained consistent on this, if the Colts strike out with literally every other option, that's the only way I could see them turning back to Brissett as him being the Week 1 starter next season.
I think the thing I would explore most is Darnold. I think Wentz, we have seen Carson Wentz is a good player. He's been at times a very good player. He clearly has fallen off. I said this over the weekend. If you really look at Rick Meyer, it's similar to Carson Wentz. There's a blueprint there. Rick Meyer and Carson Wentz had very similar out-of-the-box rookie, years that were very successful, and you thought, well, this is the long-term guy. And then once it went away, it was just difficult to get back. In Darnold's case, it's possible he can't play. But he's a big body. He has shown flashes. Derek, he's had no one around him. With Wentz, you have a better idea. There is proof that Carson Wentz is capable of having down years with good talent around him. We haven't seen that yet from Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold might have had down years, but he's never had a down year with great talent around him.
Yeah, but he's just been so bad that, you know what I mean? Like, you at least want to see something to point to with Darnold to say, this is why he can still make it.
The price tag for Darnold is not going to be what it is for Wentz. That's why.
I think the reason for that is because Wentz has somewhat of a proven track record. And you're exactly right about Darnold and Gase and the Jets are a complete grease fire, right?
Totally.
But Darnold's done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing in his career so far. So you're just kind of you're almost resetting and going back to the player that you projected as a prospect out of USC more than the guy right now.
Can there be a worse? How many quarterbacks in the NFL in the last 5 years have been in worse situations than Sam Darnold?
And everybody's going to point to Tannehill.
He had mono.
Tannehill had Gase, and so look at what Tannehill's done. And I get that, but Jake, at the end of the day, we're talking about a lot of meh to bad options for the Colts. Period. Anything that they do from here on out is going to be a huge risk.
Right.
You trade for Wentz, it's a huge risk. You trade for Darnold, it's a risk. You trade up to get Mac Jones or, I don't know, Zach Wilson, even though I don't think the Colts are going to get up that high. It's a risk. Wilson may now leapfrog Fields. I've seen a couple of mocks that have that, which, clearly that's tier one.
I think
Wilson, Fields, Lawrence is tier one.
I think Fields, I don't know this. My suspicion is that Fields is actually the quarterback the Colts would most covet if they could move up. It would be Lawrence, but they're obviously not going to be in that situation.
They've long been linked, and I believe Chris Ballard went out there in 2018 to North Dakota to see Trey Lance. So they've long been linked to him as, hey, this is the guy that they're interested in. But, I think there are tiers, and the first tier is Wilson, Lawrence, Fields, and then probably Lance after that, and then Mac Jones. That would be your 5. According to all of the scouts and the mock drafts that I see.
The other thing the Colts clearly need, and I thought they showed some signs of this at the end of the year, but one thing we saw in the way Patrick Mahomes was running for his life is you have a chance to win. The Bucs showed, again, if you can rush a quarterback, you're going to be in games, and you're going to have a chance to win. And the Colts showed some signs of life at pass rush, but that, again, the problem the Colts have, Derek, they're not far off. But like most teams, the 3 areas where the Colts have the biggest question mark are the 3 most important. Left tackle, quarterback, pass rush. Those are 3 big areas to have needs.
Yeah, and the issue that the Colts are running into is they have already invested really heavily in the offensive line. And if you spend a ton of money on guards and centers and your right tackle is going to need to be paid in Braden Smith, then suddenly you're sitting there with the most high dollar position, left tackle, and you're like, well, what do we do? Is it going to be a rookie? If it's going to be a veteran, you're going to have to pay a lot. You're going to have to pay, what's double-digit millions, 7 figures? No, 8 figures.
Yeah.
For a left tackle replacement. So it's not a good spot to be in. And the pass rush is one that we haven't really talked about, but you can go into the offseason and just still pray that Kamoko Toure is actually going to be healthy and hit. Right. But how much longer are you going to wait for that? You know what I mean? Justin Houston's a free agent. If you're planning on bringing him back at all, the interior of the line has been fantastic.
Correct.
Grover Stewart and obviously DeForest Buckner are great, but you need to get the outside figured out.
Let me ask you. You've driven your car before on road trips where you look down and the fuel light's on, right?
Oh yeah, I drive my car with the fuel light on like every week.
And you're driving and the fuel light's on and you see an exit, and you look and it says there's gas at that exit, but it's one of these offshoot brands, Rooster gas station. You're like, I'm kind of holding out for a Shell, right? So you go a little bit further. You're like, I can get another 20 miles, even though the fuel light's on. I think I can get another 20. You risk it, right? If you are the Colts, do you go ahead and try to get another exit ramp on Justin Houston?
Let me address that real quickly. I have the Gas Buddy app on my phone, so Rooster Gas generally is 5 to 7 cents less per gallon than Shell. Okay. So if I do see a Rooster Gas, usually I'm stopping and filling up. Yeah.
Okay.
Got to fill up with the Crow.
Okay, sure. Mm-hmm. You know that it's not as high a quality of gas, right?
Oh, I don't care.
It's a 77.
It's a Honda. So it's just going to take it and you just go.
Okay.
I drive it's not a high maintenance car at all. No, I do not think that Houston is going to be back. But I'm not 100% convinced of that. You know what I mean? It's not like Malik Hooker. Like Malik Hooker, absolutely is not going to be back.
Right.
I'm not in that camp with Houston, but 60-40, I'd say that he's not back. Because you squeezed what you could out of him. I think he was great for the first year. He was fine this past year. He wasn't
sufficient.
Great. Yeah, whatever. I think you move on from that.
You want to talk Hall of Fame next?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Including our close personal friend, Reggie Wayne, having to wait.
Well, he's personal friends with half the show.
Yeah, I never really felt like he connected with you as much as me. So,
okay.
I didn't want to say that, but
how many years did we do the Reggie Wayne show?
His last 3 seasons.
What about Mathis? How many did we do with Mathis?
We only did 1, his last season.
Okay.
Everybody retired after doing the show with us.
Go figure, right?
No idea why. Yeah. We'll come back and talk about that next. It's Corey and Schultz.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Derek, you want to take it back with the milk facts? Because I got my chocolate.
Yes. 10 cups of raw spinach, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and 1 banana. That is the potassium, protein, and what's the last
potassium's the banana.
No, not in order, Jake, just in general.
One of the vitamins? One of the key
Well,
vitamins?
you have the cheat sheet, not me. 10 cups of raw spinach,
Okay.
a full banana, and 2 hard-boiled eggs. So the eggs,
What,
protein.
what's no.
Eggs, sodium? No,
No.
wait, you don't need sodium. That's not good. You're putting me on the spot here.
Vitamin A. As
Gotcha,
much
okay,
vitamin A
perfect.
as 2 hard-boiled eggs right here. As much potassium as a banana. And what was the other one that you mentioned?
Oh, geez.
As much calcium as 10
Yeah.
cups of raw spinach. All can be found in chocolate milk. The American Dairy
not know
Association, by the way, with our Winners Drink Milk Winner of the Week. We will get to that. But don't forget, there's nothing like a post-workout drink, beverage, refreshing of chocolate milk, and it has packed with it all of the things that we just discussed.
Yeah, it's so good.
Winners Drink Milk.
It's so good. I did buys and tries over the weekend, and just you pump some milk.
What did you buy and what did you
after
try?
that. Buys and tries.
You bought some weights and you tried to lift them?
No,
Is that right?
it was arms day. So buys
Okay.
and tries. You're a cardio guy. I kind of go for bulk.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. 2 different approaches, but regardless of what your approach is, whether it is to, kind of run around for a couple of minutes or whether it is to like really get after it and get stronger and be more physically imposing like me, milk is a great post-workout drink.
Milk. The American Dairy Association of Indiana, we thank
I
them
said it right, milk.
for their sponsorship, and we will get to our Winners Drink Milk coming up here just a couple minutes, but let's talk about the Hall of Fame. Peyton Manning, obviously, slam dunk, got in. I thought it was funny that when the picture was sent by Brandon Stokely of Peyton Manning on a plane with his son on his way to, I guess, the Super Bowl or wherever it was that he was going, and everybody got super excited because he was wearing a Colts lapel pin. Oh, see, he got inducted to the Hall of Fame, and he's wearing the Colts lapel pin. He's on the Colts team plane. Like, if there's something to get excited about what the Colts mean to him, maybe it's the fact that he's on Jim Irsay's plane with a huge horseshoe on the outside of it, right?
When I first saw the photo, I had to expand it a little bit to realize, wait a minute, that's an airplane.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, that's nicer than pretty much any building or house that I've ever been in before. But yeah, Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson were the 2 that were slam dunk. And I really felt like Calvin Johnson was going to have a great chance to get in, and he got in. And, people seem surprised by that. But to me, Jake, I always felt like guys who were elite, even over a short window, I'd rather have those guys in than guys like, no offense, but, Andre Reed. Yeah, Andre Reed was a really good player. He played for a long time. I'm not saying that he's not a deserving Hall of Famer, but, were you one of the 2 or 3 best guys to do it?
You know the guy that –
or the best guy?
There was no question about the fact that Peyton Manning was going to get in. The big question mark was whether or not Reggie Wayne was going to get into the Hall of Fame. I thought if you're Reggie Wayne, you're disappointed that you're not in yet. But I think you're encouraged based on the fact that the guy that I've always felt like, Derek, was that Reggie Wayne's career kind of replicated was Drew Pearson. And Drew Pearson gets in, and so I'm thinking, okay, Reggie Wayne, maybe it's not just yet, but things open up a little bit next year as well. I think ultimately,
big time.
I think ultimately he gets in.
I think he gets in next year because of the first ballots. There is no first ballot next year. I mean,
Right.
DeMarcus Ware's probably the closest. Mathis actually is eligible for the first time, but he's not going to be a first ballot guy. Andre Johnson, who I think will eventually be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Devin Hester has sparked a lot of debate. I personally feel like Hester should be in, but he's not going to get in on the first crack. I think next year is the holdover year. So Zach Thomas, Tony Baselli, Reggie Wayne, all these guys that have been waiting for 3, 4, 8 years
When
are
is
going to get
Freeney
in.
eligible?
He's still a year or 2 away, I think, because he didn't retire, I think, until after the 2018 season, whereas Mathis's last year was 2016.
Is Freeney in?
Oh, I think so.
I think he's right on the cusp. I think it depends. Freeney's another one that there are certain guys, Derek, that it didn't matter who was going in that year. They're in.
Yeah.
Freeney and Mathis, to me, it's dependent upon who's eligible.
I tweeted this out, and some people agreed with it. I didn't hear a lot of people disagreeing with it. To me, of the guys that are left, and I'm not counting Vinatieri because he's not officially retired. So of the Colts retirees that are left that have a Hall case, Jeff Saturday, Robert Mathis, Reggie Wayne, Dwight Freeney. To me, Freeney is the best candidate of those. I thought he was all of them had great longevity, but I thought he was the most elite. I thought Freeney's peak was higher than Reggie Wayne's peak, than Mathis's peak, than Jeff Saturday's peak. So I would put him in.
He seems like a nice guy, and
he's not as beloved as those other three.
Well, no, the guy I'm about to talk about. I'm sorry. What's the fella's name from the Hall of Fame that knocks on everybody's door?
Oh, yeah, the big, kind of like the Andre the Giant looking dude.
Shrek.
That's a
I'm
little
just surprised that no one has called him Shrek.
Well, he's not green.
Well, I know, but he reminds me. But he seems like a nice guy. Well, I mean, I haven't seen Shrek, but isn't Shrek like beloved? Don't people like him?
Well, eventually, originally Shrek was living in seclusion, and then it wasn't until the talking donkey, voiced by Eddie Murphy, came in and kind of warmed his heart a little bit as his companion, and then Princess Fiona, and then they end up falling in love and getting married, and then turns out that Fiona is also an ogre. So there was a character arc here for Shrek.
How many times have you seen Shrek?
Too many times.
Apparently.
Too many times. Yeah, in fact, and I think anybody that's been, Jordan and Rake are on the other side. They've been through this with their kids. The first time you notice a purchase on your phone and you say, hey, wait a minute, I didn't buy this. I checked my email one day and it said, you have purchased Shrek on Amazon Prime. And I'm like, what happened? My 3-year-old had bought it.
Yeah, sure.
So then we watched it every day for the next, 100 days.
Your 3-year-old figured out how to use Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, his dad was a dedicated employee and loyal.
So
Amazon
here's what's interesting. So here I am calling the guy who is the head of the Football Hall of Fame Shrek, and then I find out that actually the real Shrek, his partner at the hip, is a talking ass. Okay. So that actually makes Shrek me, right? Is that what we've learned here?
That's hilarious.
I'm just saying, but. It was cool a couple of years ago when they first started doing the videos of him knocking on, usually it was at a hotel room.
Yeah.
And these guys the emotion was real. But now, first off, it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm watching video of him in broad daylight knocking on the door. So clearly this was like, these guys have known about it for 7 hours. They must be gagged on they can't tweet anything out or whatever that they've gotten the call. But doesn't it feel, if you're John Lynch just happens to be answering the door at 2 o'clock on the day that,
For guys like Manning and Woodson, it's stupid. But for somebody like Lynch who had Drew Pearson, Drew Pearson at some point probably was like, oh, I'm not getting in the Hall of Fame. So whatever. You know what I mean? He had probably made peace with it. So I think guys like that.
But don't you think that they
matters.
realize when the doorbell rings, when was the last time somebody came to your door?
You get a heads up. Yeah, for sure.
They just happen to have the entire family there?
Yeah, you get a heads up. Like when we won, because they felt bad just giving it to one individual. I was kind of the standout that year. But when we were the 2018 iHeartMedia Indianapolis On-Air Personalities of the Year, Mike had told me 4 hours before our holiday party, which we were unable to attend because it was between the hours of 3 and 7, that we were going to be awarded.
Do you remember what we were awarded? Big-time prize.
Yes. It was actually, we were given the gift certificates on December 27th, and they expired on December 31st.
That is correct.
So we had to make sure to use those gift cards right away.
We won't say the name of the company, but they were radio trade-outs. That actually said on it, like, trade-out, which means that the sales department was giving it for free advertising or whatever else, and it was a $1,000 gift card. You're like, wow, to a place whose least expensive item was $4,000.
Yeah, it was it's a little rough finding something that I'd only have to be out of pocket like $50.
Right. Yeah. It was a little rough.
But I found it.
Our Winner's Drink Milk brought to you by the American Dairy Association of Indiana. Winner of the week, where we nominate each and every week somebody that we give a tip of the cap, if you will. Like in this case, and I'm not giving it to Tom Brady because he's won 7 Super Bowls. He doesn't need a tip of the Bucks cap here, Derek. But I'll put that right back there. I just love Bucko Bruce. Your nomination.
This is a little random and out there because he didn't even play on Sunday in his return to his hometown to face the Pacers. But Utah right now has the best record in the league. And a guy that is part of the Jazz who has had a terrific career that I don't think we talk enough about in this town is Mike Conley. And, Mike Conley's in his 13th season.
It's crazy.
My God. Like, I see you graying. Like, that kind of makes me feel old. But thinking that Mike Conley has played 13 NBA seasons makes me feel really old. He's averaged in double digits in all but one his rookie year when he averaged 9.5 points a game. And I don't think he'll ever be an all-star. He never has been one. But just a guy, Jake, that consistently has been so good, and I think one of the better, or at least top half point guards in the league throughout his career. And mostly known for what he did in Memphis. They went to, I think, a conference finals or two while he was there and knocked on the door of championship contention. But it would be awesome if he and Donovan Mitchell and this Utah team could, do something spectacular, like get to the NBA finals and really kind of break through. Because I've always felt like the Jazz and Pacers are very similar in that aspect.
Right.
Sort of like Portland as well.
Now, Conley can make a claim, Derek. Not many guys can say during the course of their career that is the claim that I probably would want to make more so than listing that I'm an all-star or a first-team all-defensive player or whatever else. Do you know what claim he's able to make that I think he only could make for one season, maybe two?
He was undefeated against North Central?
Besides that, which I'm sure he – I don't know, wasn't –
highest paid player in the league?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm the highest paid player in the
that's pretty
NBA.
cool.
He's able to say that. What did he make, $31 million one
Yeah.
year? It might have
insane.
been for 6 weeks he was the highest paid player.
No,
in the league,
I mean it was for at least a minute. I remember because the Pacers had talked about trading for him and
He's a nice player.
getting that contract.
I will give for my Winners Drink Milk of the American Dairy Association Winner of the Week. I'm not going to try to appease both here by giving it. I thought for a second about giving it to the Purdue freshman class basketball-wise because, look, their win over Northwestern, the freshmen again, I think they're top 2 or top 3 leading scorers in that game, all freshmen. It really is impressive what their freshman class is able to do. And I know, matter of fact, here, I'll make 2 people happy. Can we do that? Can I take this off right here live on the air? I'm taking my sweatshirt off. It's warm in here anyway, right?
We had to do this on the radio show where I had to remind you that the studio was not a changing room.
Right.
Because at 6:45, the show was about to end at 7. We take our last break. Suddenly, Jake would basically change into his gym clothes. And I mean, like, change all the way into his gym clothes. And I had see-through glass in front of me and just act like I'm not here.
Well, you got to put on the boxer briefs when you're going to the gym if you're going to run.
Saw some things.
Okay, since I'm going to give an award to an Indiana basketball player, I want to make sure that I'm also appeasing our friends at Purdue with my Yell Purdue shirt from the Shop Indy. That's the shopindy.com, 920 Broad Ripple Avenue, Clay Terrace, the 2 places you can find them. Derek, I'm going to give it to Armand Franklin because he had not been shooting the ball well, and Indiana has really struggled with their outside shooting. But when it came down to it and Indiana needed a big-time play, Armand Franklin was able to get a step-back jumper for the sweep of Iowa on the season, and things you kind of felt like were teetering for Indiana. And that was a big win for them, and Armand Franklin came up with a huge play. So Armand Franklin, who you see right here, is my Winners Drink Milk winner of the week. He's playing good basketball.
Good transition.
He had been struggling, but
yeah, for sure. Good transition into our next topic, which is exactly that, Indiana's win in college basketball. We'll come back with that, plus more features to get to when we return here on Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Welcome back. It's Corey and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. Thanks so much for tuning in, whether you're doing so on ISCSportsNetwork.com, you're watching us on Comcast Xfinity 81, Perhaps you're listening to us on any of the major platform providers
Those
like
would be
iTunes,
Okay.
Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, our old friends at iHeart. We still have an iHeart channel that's over there. Or maybe you're watching on YouTube. That's where we archive the show a couple of days afterwards. Query and Schultz, youtube.com/Query and Schultz on our Query and Schultz page. So there's so many avenues in which to hit us, and that's the thing, Jake. My two dreams for the show: one, be on every platform possible. I'd like to do Broadway at some point, like have Query and Schultz the Broadway show, where I'd play me. We'd have to get a different actor for you, and also like my coffee, Hot Cup of Schultzy from Wood Warbler Coffee, hit all the senses. So you're hearing us, you're seeing us right now. I want you to smell Query and Schultz. I want you to taste Query and Schultz. I want you to feel.
Do you wear cologne?
Query and Schultz. No, I have a natural musk that's very appealing. So I've never needed to mask that.
You know,
why do you ask that?
Well, I wear a lot of different colognes, and I think that if people had to smell the show, they would prefer to get my scent than yours.
What would Query the cologne
Bond number 9?
smell like? I don't know what that is.
Shea Bond from Bond number 9 would be one. Lacoste actually has a really good one that I wear. Dolce & Gabbana light blue. I have a Joe Malone that's pretty good. That's a lime basil.
Because when I think of your fragrance, I think it'd be somewhat kind of a mix of a smell of like spray tan and arrogance. You know what I mean?
Nothing
Like
wrong with
that
that.
orangey. I spray tan once before the wedding, and there's that.
That's how I
there's
maintain
that
my
smell
glow,
in there.
Derek. You do kind of get a weird smell, yeah.
Yeah.
At any rate, college basketball, look, it's a weird season. You know, what really is interesting to me about college basketball this year, somebody pointed this out to me, and I thought it was a really good point. A year where you didn't have, teams weren't really able to do all of the preseason, workouts beginning because of COVID and everything else. The schools that are typically very reliant on 5-star freshmen, they didn't have the 90-day period to mesh those guys together and figure out who's who. So you're just kind of rolling them out there and throwing it out. And so what do you see? We're seeing a year where the Blue Bloods, Derek, are down. Kentucky, obviously, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas for that matter. Gonzaga's the one team. Gonzaga may who knows, Gonzaga may match Indiana's 76 season and go undefeated here.
Yeah.
Now, if they do, is there I can't say this word, an asterisk? I always say asterisk, but it's asterisk. But does that go on there to say, well, it's a game, they were undefeated, but it was in a year where there weren't really true road games and hostile crowd environments? Or do you say, hey, you know what? Good for them. Kudos to them.
Let me look at their schedule because they still have to play BYU and St. Mary's are usually the only teams that matter in that league.
Correct.
Isn't San Francisco pretty good? I feel like
I
thought there was another West Coast team that's actually pretty. They've already beaten St. Mary's once. They beat BYU once. They still have. They play at. Well, we're taping this on Monday. They play at BYU tonight.
Okay.
So this might be dated. Jordan, we'll just grab this in post. If they lose to BYU tonight, we'll just grab it in post.
We'll grab it in post.
And then they have to go at San Francisco, and then they have to play St. Mary's at home. Actually, San Francisco's 10-8. So that can't be the team that I
think you're right, though. San Francisco was ranked at the beginning of the year.
I just thought that there was somebody else in the West Coast Conference that was actually pretty decent. No, it wouldn't come with an asterisk because it's very, very difficult to do. I don't care what.
And they're really
the
good,
circumstances
man. They're really good.
Yeah. But steering it back to Indiana, it was a win that I felt like they had to have. Obviously they have plenty of more chances for quality wins, but coming off the disappointing loss to Rutgers and the fact that you couldn't close out Illinois, that was very similar to me of the Wisconsin game where you had a million chances to win and you weren't able to do it. For them finally, Jake, to make plays down the stretch and win, when Trace Jackson missed both of those free throws at about the 2-minute mark, I thought, here we go again.
Right.
Now they're going to miss all their free throws and then Iowa's going to win by 4 or whatever it is. And Franklin, I love the fact that he wasn't deterred by starting 1 of 10. Shoot or shoot. And he took a shot that you had to be supremely confident in making to take, and I love that confidence level for a young player.
I think that something interesting happened for Indiana when I was watching it, and that's, Christian Lander, who I realize is supposed to be a senior in high school right now, and he was moved up, Christian Lander, for the first time when I was watching him, I thought, okay, I can see some pretty natural basketball ability in him. He looked lost. You know, at the beginning of the season when I would watch Christian Lander play, I had bad flashbacks of Delray Brooks. Nothing against Delray Brooks. But Delray Brooks, when he was at Michigan City Rogers, was a blue-chip, 5-star, USA Today before Rivals and those things. You know, player of the year, everybody talking about him, 37 a game, Mr. Basketball. And he comes to Indiana for the 84-85 season, and about halfway through, you're thinking, is he maybe not as good as what he's supposed to be? And then, you know, he transfers to Providence and has a nice career there. With Christian Lander, about halfway through the year, I'm thinking, there's a lot of hype here. Is he maybe not as good as what we thought? Was he playing bad competition, whatever it might be? I saw in the Iowa game times where I'm like, okay, now I can see where he can run an offense. But my concern, Derek, is that it seems as though he's running an offense that is not the offense that everybody else on the floor wants to or is told to run.
Good.
He just looks like it doesn't fit.
Yeah, I
don't. Is Indiana the long-term home for him, or would he have been better off going to a Kentucky or a Kansas or a wide? He just looks like,
I don't know about that.
You can tell in the way he plays. He's athletic. He's fast.
Sure.
He can't shoot to save his life, but you can tell. Okay, this guy has some skill, but yet he's trying to go 90 miles an hour, and everybody else is still trying to finesse through traffic.
Well, this offense stinks, so I think most people are going to look bad in this offense because Archie Miller is not – it's just not a good offense. But what I like about Lander is that you're right. He looked like he didn't belong.
Right.
And now at least he looks like he belongs to the extent that I think he should be getting some of – and he hit a big shot yesterday. But for the most part, Rob Phinisee is just a non-factor. Like, he's out there and whatever. You completely forget about Rob Phinisee. He hit that big three yesterday, but he was something like, 0 of 8 from the field, I think, until then. You hope that maybe some of the younger guys can take some of those minutes away and continue to earn those minutes because Lander's finally earning them.
Look, I'm going to make a bad reference because it's 40 years old. But when Isaiah Thomas was at Indiana, there were a couple of things in that 81 season when Indiana won it all. And Indiana is not a team that's on the brink of winning it all. Don't misquote me here. But Indiana in 81, Landon Turner's turning of the corner was a huge part of suddenly when Indiana just caught fire. But another big part of that is Bob Knight basically said to Isaiah Thomas, instead of having a point guard like that running a motion offense, he basically, and we'll never know, was it the coaching genius of Bob Knight that did this, or was it a strategy that backfired on Bob Knight that did this? I don't know. But Bob Knight basically, in not so many terms, said to Isaiah Thomas, fine. I'll just hand it over to you, and you just do what you got to do. Fine. If that's how you want to do it, that's how you're going to do it. And boom, they end up winning by the largest average margin of victory in an NCAA tournament.
Yeah, never threatened.
Forever. They were never threatened. So I feel like Archie Miller with Lander, we are approaching the point here where they're going to have to do one of two things. Either Indiana's just not a good fit for him, or Archie Miller says, you know what, fine. You're the point guard. I'm going to hand it over to you, and you play your style.
Well,
see what happens.
Here's what we're going to agree is that Indiana has to get more out of their guards. They have to. The front court's been good. I mean, Trey Jackson-Davis is Trey Jackson-Davis. Race Thompson was fantastic in that win against Iowa and has been, I think, a nice piece for them. But the guards have to be better. Indiana's main problem to me this year is Durham and Phinisee just being helter-skelter. I mean, at least Durham sometimes plays well. I mean, Phinisee at this point. You hope that he can find whatever he lost, because originally when he came there, I thought that he was going to be a nice player by the time it was all said and done, but it feels like he's just completely
he's an okay player.
Hit the wall.
He's a good college player. He's not a great player. He's serviceable, Derek. He's a very adequate college player. I know that you want more than that from your starting point guard, right? More than just adequately average.
Al Durham, to me, is an adequate starting player.
Yeah.
Al Durham's fine.
I think he's more helter-skelter than Rob Phinisee.
Well, Durham's been more of a productive player than Phinisee's been. But, we're talking about two guys who aren't great.
Okay, let's get to our Love That Play, brought to you by Love Heating and Air Conditioning. You see right here, family owned and operated since 1920. How do you last 100 years and start your second century in business, no matter what line of work you're in? Very simple. Love Heating and Air, simple policy here. You got great product. You got a great knowledge of the product. Derek, right now it's supposed to be like 5 below coming up.
Isn't it already? It feels like it.
Last night, Shannon's furnace.
Oh, no.
Love Heating on their way over.
Yeah.
Boom. Get there.
Greg
same
Poley,
day.
our buddy.
Greg
who
Poley.
I think still listens to this show, unless he wants me to defriend him and unfollow him. Also had love over at his house.
You know what he gave them when they came over?
What's that?
Greg Poley? Love Heating and Air. He had to call them because, again, 24-hour maintenance. 353-2141 is the telephone number, or love-hvac.com. Greg Poley had them come out and actually greeted the guys with a hot cup of Schultz.
Oh, are you serious?
From Wood Warbler
Yeah,
Coffee.
wow. Thank you,
How do
Greg.
I know that and you don't know that?
That's amazing.
So our
Warms you
favorite
right up.
play from the week. I'm going to do this is great. I mean, this is really the way to do it here, right? When I play things through my phone, does that work?
God.
Do we know if that works?
Yeah. Well, are we going to choose the same thing?
I don't know. What's
we
yours?
just talked about it. I'm choosing Franklin's shot because I love the fact that he was 1 for 10 or whatever he was, and then he still has the confidence to make that big shot. And honestly, Jake, I'm not trying to be too hyperbolic here. Might have saved Indiana's season.
Yeah.
To be totally honest.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, Armand Franklin was my winner's drink milk winner of the week. But I'm going to go with during the Super Bowl, and this is courtesy of Westwood One. I'm assuming that we're allowed to play audio from Westwood One because it's under a minute, and I believe by FCC rules when you're playing somebody else's audio because we courtesy that it's Westwood One, we can do this.
We'll ask our legal team.
This is Kevin Harlan with the call of a fan running on the field at the Super Bowl. Have you heard the call?
Yep, I have heard this.
Okay,
He's
here
done
we go.
this before.
Down 20, 5:03 to
No
go.
sports
Somebody's
working.
run on the field. Some guy with a brawl. And now he's not being chased. He's running down the middle of the 40. Arms in the air in a victory salute. He's pulling down his pants. Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants. He's being chased to the 30. He breaks a tackle from a security guard. The 20, down the middle, the 10, the 5. He hides at the 1, and they converge on him at the goal line. Pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man.
That is Kevin Harlan on
I
the
am
call
sad.
from Westwood One.
One missed opportunity there, and we had Kevin Harlan on our show
was
on
great.
Radio Row. Could not have been a nicer
was
guy
very
and an
cool.
insanely talented guy. One missed opportunity there. Did he get in? That's what I would have, because that
You're
was
right.
kind of the debate on Twitter. Oh, wait, he slid. Did he cross the plane before he ended up getting in?
I could see Mark Boyle. That sounds like a Mark Boyle
Yeah.
call, kind of.
Kind of have fun with it. But Harlan did that famously a couple of years ago on a Monday Night Football game, and that went viral and got a lot of
I'll tell you
airplay.
what, kidding aside, so my winner's drink milk, or excuse me, not my love that play is the fact of Kevin Harlan's call.
Yeah.
Not the guy running on the field. It's actually kind of frightening to think that somebody during a Super Bowl is able to get out on the field and run around like that.
I would assume just because it's a pandemic, that kind of opened the door a little bit.
Probably a little
I
bit.
would think under normal circumstances.
What if we find
it
out
would
he
be
was
able
one of
to
the
do it.
vaccinated healthcare workers that got in free
Oh,
and
boy.
just
But then again, Jake, we got on the field, and we weren't credentialed to do so during the Super Bowl. Because I listened to, the statute of limitations has probably run out on that. In fact, we got to the locker room, and Jake and me were the only people standing next to Olivia and Archie Manning.
right. I talked to Archie Manning, remember?
As they're waiting to talk to their son, we're just standing there against the wall, and Jake's like, Archie, congrats,
Yeah.
or something like that. And I'm just standing there like, we're not supposed to be here.
You know what was weird to me this past week? And I know that like Facebook now and social media, you get the things that's like, this was 1 year ago today, 2 years ago. They must have done like a mass thing to everybody. The Super Bowl, that was 8 years ago. The Super Bowl was in Indy, right? Or 9 years ago.
9 years ago. Yeah, 11
20
season, 12
Right.
year.
So everyone this past weekend was sending out their Facebook memories of the Super Bowl being in Indy. And it's not like it was a landmark anniversary. It wasn't 10 or 15 year or 5 year. I don't ever remember, like a year ago, I don't remember everybody sending that out. I mean, I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, it's Super Bowl week, and the Super Bowl was once in Indy.
Yeah, I mean, I get
Like-
them every year, the Facebook memories of, me in front of the Giants Indy car, and,
Right.
because my
But,
wife
like,
and I went downtown.
Why was this year the year that everyone was sending it
Yeah,
out?
I don't know.
Everyone was nostalgic about it this year, and I don't ever remember that being the case.
Is
in
it
years
because
past.
this was a later Super Bowl this year because it was February 7th? And was it later that year too?
Maybe.
So it lined up a little.
I
Sometimes
guess.
the Super Bowl is like February 1st or 2nd.
Right.
So
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Weird. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, literally in one day, I'm seeing everyone sending it. Anyway, we've got to get to Buy It or Bull Schultz, right?
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about the free-falling Pacers as well.
Okay. We'll do that next here on Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Oh my God! We are ripping fast today. How hard can it be, right? These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. It is time for the wildly popular and now sponsored by the Shop Indy Buy It or Bull Schultz. What's the cheesy grin?
Best thing we do. That's why we save it to last.
The shop, theshopindy.com. You want to talk about retro, very cool, and obviously comfortable, great-looking T-shirts and hats, stickers of the nostalgic nature throughout Indiana, whether you're talking about pop culture in Indiana, whether you're talking about the different sports teams, the colleges. The Shop Indy is absolutely wonderful. This shirt, just a prime example, my Purdue shirt that I'm wearing today, but they have Purdue, Butler, Indianapolis, the Racers, the Indianapolis Colts, obviously, the Horseshoe Collection, all available. TheShopIndy.com. You can also find them at 920 Broad Avenue, right next to Union Jack, or at Clay Terrace. Derek, how do we do Buy It or Bull Schultz?
I give a statement. You and I go back and forth whether we buy it or we think it's Bull Bleep.
Bull Schultz.
Ready? Here we go.
Yep.
Statement 1. It's not Bull Schultz. Buy it or Bull Bleep is what it's called. Tom Brady should retire right now, having done everything you could possibly do. Buy it or Bull Bleep?
You know, I've thought about that. People go to Florida to retire, right? And I would say I buy it, except for that the last time he won the Super Bowl, I would have said that. I would have said, well, he can't do this again. You know, I don't know the status of, like, the defensive players for the Bucs and who would be back and who would not, but I'll say it's Bull Schultz. I think he's still got it left in the tank.
I'm going to buy it, not because he doesn't have anything left in the tank. I think he has something left in the tank. But I'm going to buy it because it felt like, and somebody that is that great doesn't need more validation, but it felt like the last thing for Brady to do was to leave the cocoon of Belichick and the Patriots and go somewhere else and win at a high level. Now, I never in my wildest dreams thought, I really didn't, that he'd be able to go somewhere else and win a Super Bowl. So for him to do that in the first year and then for the Patriots to backstep the way that he did, I mean, there's no more perfect way than to go out. I'll say this, Jake, and you know, obviously this show will be archived for many, many years because there are generations of people that are going to talk about Query and Schultz afterwards. You can save this forever. I don't think there will ever again be an individual player to win 7 Super Bowls.
It's hard to argue that.
I think it is. You know, we talk about unbreakable records, and Cal Ripken Jr. in the consecutive game streak, you know, sometimes unbreakable records get broken. I don't think that will ever be broken. I cannot even fathom someone else winning 7, especially a quarterback, winning 7 Super Bowls.
Especially, it's hard to think of somebody winning 6 with one franchise.
Or playing in 10. My God.
Well, like I said,
Patrick
Mahomes is the first player, the first quarterback to start 2 Super Bowls before the age of 26. And he now would have to play until he's 37, going to the Super Bowl every other year and win all of them to tie Tom Brady.
It's insane.
It's pretty remarkable.
Statement 2, both Indiana and Purdue will be in the NCAA tournament.
I will buy that now. I would have said Bull Schultz, but it's a down year for so many blue bloods anyway. Purdue's not a question mark. Purdue's in.
Yeah, they're safely in where they sit right now.
I mean, they're ranked.
And their schedule isn't great to finish up.
Indiana's the question mark, and I think Indiana, by beating Iowa and sweeping them, although this is typical Fran McCaffrey Iowa team, isn't it? Like
they always fade.
Start out like a house of fire, and then you fade back. But I think Indiana's in. I think they hold on, and I think they get it.
I do, too. Their metrics have always been great. Ken Palm's been in love with them all year. They're number 25, Ken Palm.
Looking
They're a top 50 team in the net. and they got another quad 1 win. So as long as Iowa doesn't continue to nosedive, Jake, both of those Iowa wins will be quad 1 wins, and they're 6-7 against quad 1 and quad 2. So that's pretty good for a team that
Quad
is
1
on the
and
fringe.
quad 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what those are, right?
Yeah, they're quads.
No, but you know what a quad
You
1
lived
win
in a
is.
quad in college, didn't you?
I did, right quad at IU. Quad 1
was the wrong quad
is
for a lot of people.
home win. Actually, it was the right quad for a lot of. We were sandwiched in between 2 all-girl floors.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you didn't need a card to get from floor to floor. So I had girls knocking on the door all the time.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Knocking on the door all the time.
Yeah.
They usually
Can
ask
you
for
turn
Dan,
down the Sublime?
but they did knock on the
They
door.
usually
a lot.
ask for what?
For Dan, my roommate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a dealer, but I'm just kidding. He wasn't. He
Okay.
wasn't really. He wasn't.
All right.
Really.
Was he a
No, that was
potluck?
yeah.
See what I mean there?
Okay. Yeah, the cheesy jokes. What were we talking about? Oh, Indiana and their metrics. Yeah. They have
Your
a top.
quad. You're talking about your quad.
Yeah, quad 1 is home over a top 25 team, neutral over a top 50 team, or road over a top 75 team. And Iowa currently is actually a top 10 team in the net. That'll change probably, but as long as they stay in the top 25 in the net, that will remain a quad 1 win for Indiana. And the win in Iowa City is going to remain a quad 1 win.
Good win.
Period, because you would think that Iowa was going to stay in
Right.
the top 75.
Okay. What's next?
Statement 3, the I have a feeling that you're going to buy this. The Super Bowl isn't the cultural event it once was.
I buy that.
Buy it or boldly.
I think it's still massive. Part of it, Derek, may just be my age. It's hard for me to say because I'm older. You know, the first Super Bowl that I remember watching was the Steelers-Cowboys in Pasadena, I think it was, the Lynn Swann game, 79 maybe. I remember watching Kenny King go crazy for the Raiders against the Eagles, and then just on and on. It feels to me like the red carpet, every celebrity is there, massive parties, and everything else, you know, and media day with all the wackiness of, you know, American Idol rejects doing interviews and all that. It feels like that peaked like around probably 2010, 2009, somewhere in there. It is still the cultural leader, but we just live in an era now where there are so many entertainment options on the plate that it's hard for anything to maintain the level that it did back in that time. Like the commercials. Yeah. You know, that was such a big deal at one time. Like, oh, the Super Bowl commercials. I mean, did anybody really talk? I mean, this year was different. I get it, but
nothing is as big as it was in 1980, right? The World Series, because, you know, we have just a much larger way of consuming everything now, right? We have so much more access to everything. It's not 3 channels or 4 channels on the TV anymore.
Did you think it was
you get
weird?
whatever you want?
Speaking of the commercials, I'm going to contradict myself because I said nobody's talking about the commercials now. I'm about to ask you about one. And I realize it's a year where, you know, ad agencies weren't working all year on commercials because of COVID, and I get it. But 2 things that jumped out at me about the commercials. Number one, in years, for so many years where people are trying to basically do these, you know, award-winning pieces for a commercial, somebody in a marketing room just said, you know what, let's just throw Beavis and Butthead out there and have them make
it worked. Yeah, and you remember it.
It was the best. But I thought the Budweiser commercial, first off, I thought Budweiser said they weren't spending money on commercials this year because they
That's
were
what I
going to
thought
give all
too.
the money to
But I
COVID.
missed theirs. I only heard that they had run one. I must have been out of the room.
Well, their claim was, well, we didn't specifically advertise Budweiser. It was for Bud Light or Michelob and other Anheuser-Busch things. Okay. But there was one of the Anheuser-Busch ads that basically was, this was the first time, and I'm not trying to be a prude, but they had a Michelob Ultra commercial that basically the message, at least to me, seemed to be, hey, you don't have fun with your friends until everybody's drinking. That was kind of the mess. I was like, but then they had another one where it showed all these people at work on the job and going in, and somebody's like, hey, man, you've had a rough day at work. Here, have a Bud Light. And everybody's sitting around the conference table and they're drinking. And then, like, they show a waiter at a restaurant that's slammed, and he goes back in the kitchen, and the chef and everybody, they crack open Bud Lights. And I thought to myself, the message here seems to be that, like, Bud Light is so great and having a beer after work is so good that why wait till you get home? Just do it at work. And then they go back to the game where one coach is not at the Super Bowl. Oh, that's right, because he was involved in an accident where presumably he was under the influence of alcohol right next to his workplace. It just felt weird. And I know that I overread these things, but it just felt weird.
Well, the hypocrisy of all of this, kind of like the NFL using 7,500 vaccinated healthcare workers as a shield to be able to host thousands of people in their Super Bowl. There's a lot of hypocrisy that's involved with all of this. So, obviously you and I always say this about you, one of the interesting things about you is that you read deeply into things, but I had not drawn that same parallel, but I'm not surprised that same parallel came from you, or
is that a compliment? I
that,
don't think
that
that's
Anheuser-Busch would, kind of say that, and, they talk out of both sides of their mouth. Drink responsibly, right?
Right.
Yeah, you say that because you have to say that. So.
Are you saying that I sometimes wear too big a thinking cap?
Ugh. No, because that gives you too much credit. I think you draw parallels
sorry,
to
Derek,
things that no
cap.
other human being on earth would draw a parallel to.
That's not a compliment.
Well, it's just interesting how your mind works. That's
okay.
So I guess that's a compliment.
Okay.
Like, I think you're interesting. I think you're like the weirdest person I've ever met, but you are interesting. There's an interest that comes from how much of a huge weirdo you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's all.
Fair enough.
Do you want to talk Pacers? I mean, we don't. They lost. They've lost 5 of 6. 12-12. They're 500 on the year. You know what? They're still the 5th team in the East because the East kind of sucks right now.
The Pacers, the simplest thing I could say about the Pacers is a year ago you looked at the Pacers and you had a coach that was very defensive-minded and you thought, man, if they could just open up their offense. Now they have a coach that's very offensive-minded and you think to yourself, man, if they could just play some defense.
Yeah.
It's got to be a happy
to me
medium
still,
here, right?
you traded Oladipo for nothing. You took him off the table, and that's no offense to LeVert. I mean, he's got to get healthy and all of that, but you subtracted a piece for you, and you never replaced it. So I'm not surprised that the Pacers are kind of hitting the skids a little bit here because they're just not as strong as they were.
My concern for the Pacers is both Malcolm Brogdon and Domas Sabonis played at such a high level for the first quarter or whatever it is of the year, and in Sabonis' case, logged so many minutes that I have a concern, Derek, that both of them are going to hit a wall. And that things are really going to drop off at that point because who's your go-to guy at that point?
Yeah, and part of me, Jake, is almost like, do I really care about the Pacers winning 47 games or something? Who cares? They've done that a bunch of times. It's all about, can they win a first-round playoff series? So I just want the Pacers to get on the dance floor and then find a way to dance. That's all I want them to do.
Now, in your case, did you ever, A, get on the dance floor, and then, B, you probably had no clue what to do once you were there, right?
A, always, and B, lit it up.
Yeah, okay.
I'm an excellent dancer.
Oh, okay.
You used to always make fun of that, and it's because you have no rhythm. Okay. So you don't.
I remember.
Your mind
didn't you claim to
that.
be a high dive artist?
Oh, that too. Yeah, I'm very gifted in a lot of different areas outside of just being a broadcast personality.
Okay, sure.
But a tremendous, tremendous dancer.
Okay.
You went to my wedding. You were Shannon's +1 because we invited Shannon to come, and then she took you.
You didn't think I was going to be there, did you?
No. Then I show up. Oh, hey, man, Jake's here. Yeah, dude, you're the best man at my wedding. Like, you're supposed to be supporting me. Who cares that Jake's here? Uh-huh. The bachelor party was the same way.
Yeah, at the bachelor party, they were blowing me up, asking me to come out and join you guys, and then I got there late, and you puked, and then I went home.
I responsibly vomited in the limousine because it was the end of the night, and I decided that Raskeller starting was a bad idea with those optimators. It was a really, really horrible idea.
I showed up. Everybody was blowing up my phone. You got to come out. Query, you got to come out. It's Derek's bachelor party. I'm like, I don't want to steal the thunder. But my phone was just blowing. So finally, I showed up, and one of your friends wanted to fight me. And then they said, hey, we're actually going to this establishment. And I said, well, I'll just meet you guys there. You got on a bus. I went to the establishment with our buddy Rolando Arroyo, and we were sitting and waiting. And then Rolando got a text that said, I just got a text from Derek. He puked. The night's over.
Yeah.
So we
went back to the hotel after that. I can tell you this. Strong German beer is tough on the way down. It's even worse when it's coming out of your nostrils. So I would not recommend during the bachelor party the Optimators to start. It was like 6:30 at night, and we were starting with the Optimators. It's just a horrible idea.
Even worse coming out of your nostrils.
Oh, boy. It was bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. All right, so that wraps it up. What do we got next week?
Next week we're going to have a show. It's going to be on ISC Sports Network. It's going to include all of our
I'm not going to say if
fabulous
the key fobs
sponsors.
work because last time I said that, the next day they didn't.
Well, that's true. It's going to have a bunch of great content. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to watch it and love it.
Okay. All right. Well, so for Derek Schultz, I'm Jake Query. Who else is here, Derek, that we need to give thanks to?
Thanks to Wes. Thanks to Jordan. Thanks to Rake. Jake is back there as well somewhere.
No, I'm
Ditto
right
for
here.
Greg Mash. No, the other Jake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jake Otro.
Our entire ISC crew. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
See ya, buddy.
Bye.